shit! What was that? What? Is that a wheelie? What the hell? What? Is that a .21 ripping wheelies? Oh, snaps. Oh, yeah. Woo, I need a parachute. I didn't even pull the throttle, full throttle. This Reds is one nasty 21. Oh yeah, she hauls the mail. What up, Nitro Nation? Muggy Maniac is doing some serious frickin'. First of all, one of my favorite bands all time, and these old farts are still touring, Iron Maiden. Shout out to Maiden. Nothing like a little Iron Maiden, a little bit of wrenching. A little bit of Rockstar, Pure Zero. Yeah, these aren't that good for you, but at least I have the ones with no sugar in it. No sugar or zero carbs, or sugar-free. So what's up, people? Anyway, another rare video of the Muggy doing some hands-on wrenching. What's the difference? Well, I'm going to explain it to you what is the main difference. And what I'm talking about is when it comes to diffs. Diffs are very important. It's basically what transfers the power from a badass engine like this that you guys just seen to the ground. By the way, this thing, I've been getting a lot of emails, a lot of texts. A lot of people are like, dude, who modded that? What Reds is that? Okay, keep in mind, this is a $300 retail. I think they're running specials on them right now from what I understand. But retail, this is a $300 engine that I paid $200 for and put another $100 into it. So $300 and some change drag mod that is just one of the nastiest .21s that I own. And this thing, like I said, the balls haven't even dropped. It doesn't even have, it probably maybe has a gallon on it right now. So this thing is going to continue to get, if you can even believe it, is going to continue to get stronger, faster, torque here. It's not even, this thing is sleepwalking, and you guys seen it. Okay, proof is in the pudding. Seeing is believing. From what I understand, I mean this, and again, I mean this thing is pulling wheelies, hitting high notes that are like highest of high notes. Okay, perfect, tuned. I mean, I haven't really dialed in the tune perfectly. It's got a legit tune on it. Okay, but I mean, I haven't really messed with it too much. The thing I love about a good, decent engine like this, especially one that's modified by Lance, shout out to Lance Heidman, RCR, which is RC Renew. Man, he's never let me down on any of my engines, and this one in particular, he told me it was going to be nasty. He just didn't tell me how nasty it was going to be. He did some special work to it. A couple little tricks and secrets that some of you know, some of you don't know. I'm really not at liberty to share a lot of his tips. He only tells me so much. But anyway, you've seen this thing, so I don't even have to really say anything. You guys know what it does. Seeing is believing. Because a lot of people on YouTube, the problem is, again, they're doing a lot of this, flapping the lips, but I don't see anything on video. And actually, if you look up .21's pulling wheelies, you'll only find 2 videos of a .21 in a truggy or buggy pulling a wheelie. This one in the buggy, and this other badass one here, the RCR modded P5 XL Novarossi. Okay, so 2 Italian badasses. Right now, so far, I mean, I haven't really got into the Virtus that much, but so far, these are like the 2 baddest modded .21s I have, and I still got a couple more that I haven't got modded yet. Remember, we still got the Pico V1 Team Edition. That one's going to get modded soon. And we have the works that I haven't even ran stock yet. The Jeremy Quartz. And the reason I say Jeremy Quartz is because he did some special work to it. I got it off a guy that, like I told you, that, you know, and I showed you what he sent me as far as when I texted him, that Jeremy Quartz did take that works engine I have and did some stuff to it. Now, it's basically got a mild, you know, it's a team modded engine, but I don't know until I run it. But I guarantee you it's going to get modded, and it'll be, no matter what it is, stock, it'll be bad or asser. Because I ran both of these engines bone stock out of the box, broke them in, ran them stock, and they were bad engines. They were, both of these engines stock are badass engines, but once they're modded by RC Renew, complete difference. And to answer a quick question before we get into the wrenching part of this, like I said, these are the only 2 engines. If you pull up on YouTube, type it in, .21 pulling wheelie, you'll see this one here will be in there on the Kyosho, okay, that badass, you know, MP9 TKI4 Spec A Team Edition, badass race buggy. And I want to correct myself on not the last video, but the video when I ran this thing in the street and did some high-speed passes. I said buggy. I mean truggy. Obviously, I messed up. It's buggy. Obviously, Kyosho. This is the MP9 TKI4 Spec A. This was the last, and until they come out with something better, because compared to the MP10, and I have friends of mine that own the MP10, and they own one of these, they said no comparison. The MP9 by far, to date, is the baddest, and will remain until they come out with a better one. If they do, probably not. But the baddest 8-scale nitro buggy Kyosho has ever produced. This thing has many FMARs, the same design. As you guys know, the MP9, they changed a lot of it. That's why, one of the reasons why Jared Tebow left, and one of the reasons why Elliott Boots left. And both those guys are top 10 in the world, and have been, and obviously they didn't like the MP10, so they were like, I'm out of here, peace. But the MP9 it's badass, and yeah, that's the last I mean, the best year in my opinion, and I know in a lot of other people's opinion, Kyosho buggy that they made. But anyway, so if you look it up on YouTube, .21 pulling wheelies, it'll have this one with the reds in it, okay, and it'll have on, as far as truggy, remember this was in the Mugen MBX 7T. Now next on deck, coming up, I did run this a little bit, but I really didn't get into it because I had a servo issue. That's taken care of, so we're good to go, but we're going to do 2 truggies on the next bash video. We're going to do basically battle of the big dogs. We're going to see what the big dogs have to say about all these badass .21s. So we're going to bust out the RCR modded LRP .32 Spec 4 and the TNS modded 28.8 Rex Legend, modified by TNS. This one's modified by RC Renew. So yeah, so we're going to bust both of these out and feed the big dogs. But anyway, this video, like I said, we're going to talk about one more look at that sexy engine. Oh yeah, by the way, I did want to take the back plate out. I'm going to take this down and clean it a little bit, but see if I can get this off with one hand. Now, I purposely didn't put any after. Look at the back plate. The back plates are nice. I polish them. I don't know if you guys can see. It's kind of shiny. Let me turn off the light a little bit. There we go. Polish it up a little bit. Engine is obviously all clean. Let's take a look at this internals of this badass engine. So I have to say, I have bragging rights now until somebody else outdoes me. I have the only .21 stock or modded, because I haven't seen either, on video pulling wheelies in a buggy and a truggy. So now I didn't put any after on in that. Look at that, that's Byron's. See how Byron's, man, I've never had an issue, man. Makes me bummed out every time I think that, you know, pretty soon there will be no more Byrons. As far as, I've got plenty left and I know where I can get more, but they're not producing it anymore. So you can find Byrons. I highly recommend. If you run anything else, whatever you run, as long as it works for you, that's what's, you know, that's what counts. I just was referred to, and I trust my engine builder, what he tells me. Look at that thing. Look how sealed that is. Watch this, people. You guys watching this? When I push on it, look at that. See how that just wants to back out? Look at bam. That's called sealed, baby. But anyway, we'll mess with that in a minute. So I was looking for some kind of information on, and I know somewhat, but as far as being real technical, what is the difference as far as your diff weights? Okay, that's the main reason I'm doing this video. We're not going to make it long. Oh, a couple other updates before we get into this. You are looking at the MP9, the Kyosho. This is the radio tray. Okay, now this is all, well, you can see it from underneath. This is 7075 aluminum, the radio tray. And what I did, it was kind of a pain in the butt, but it looks badass. If you notice it, I carbon fibered it. I did a carbon fiber wrap on the whole radio tray. Obviously, we're running the ProTech 130 on the steering, and we're running the Ryan Cavalieri until it takes a crap. I've already had one take a crap on me, but, you know, maybe I just got a bad one. That's what they all say, right? Maybe I just got a bad one. Ah, user's error. How about, you know what? The way these things are made now, especially Savox, they're made in Taiwan, I believe. It says somewhere. There we go. Right here, look. Here's where Savoxes are made, people. Okay? Can you guys read that? What does that say? Made in Taiwan, Savox. Now, a little better, but not much. Where is Protex made? What does that say? Korea. But anyway, I just redid that, so I think it looks pretty sick. So now the whole radio tray is carbon fiber. And I think it looks badass. But anyway, so I did that. Also, these are my Diff towers. Now, the ones that came on, I don't know how or why, but the guy didn't have there's guides that go on these things. See these? These are guides, and what that does is it keeps your brakes from flapping around. It's just better, it gives you better, more accurate braking. That way, when this bottom part isn't moving around. See, with these ones here, I wasn't having any issues, but I'm just real anal about stuff like this. See, it doesn't have them on it. So, another thing I do, a little tip for you guys. Every once in a while, it's good to take a very light sandpaper and scuff up your discs on your disc brakes, because they will get glazed. Just like a real vehicle, over time, you know, and make sure you check on your brake pads. I've got plenty on there. But over time, that brake pad material will wear on here and it'll get glazed. And it'll affect your brakes. So every time when I go to do maintenance on my whips, and especially when I'm doing the diff and I'm taking these discs out, I clean them up with alcohol, and then I take a light sandpaper, real fine, and scuff them up really good, and then clean them again with rubbing alcohol, just to make sure they grip good. But anyway, we're going to put these in. So I usually maintain my diffs. Obviously you could see that. See that? That's diff oil. Look how black that shit is. Look at that. That shit is like mud. I believe there's 120K in here, if I remember right, when I set this thing up. And I've ran about, I would recommend checking. What I do is when I take my diffs out, I take both hands and I turn the outer drives. And you can feel it, because when you put them together, especially when you're using, you know, 100 weight or more, you can feel it when you put it together how stiff it is. I mean, it's because you're putting 100 weight, 100, you know, 100K in it. So every time when you're done running it, and when I clean my whip and I take my diff out, I always check it. And when it starts to feel not as stiff, I know it's getting time. And I usually kind of go, I try to keep up on the gallons. Sometimes if you want, you can mark it. I know guys that will take a white type chalk or something and mark on their diffs when they change them. And then, or keep track of how much fuel you ran through it. This thing has never been changed since I put it together, how many months ago? A couple months ago or whatever, however long I've had the KO show. So when I put it together, I put 100K in it, which is what I usually run on my buggies. I usually run 100K in the center, 50 on the front, and 50 on the rear. Okay, on my truggies, I run 125 in the center diff, and 60 on the front, 60 on the rear. What I highly recommend, and you use whatever you want, I use both. I use Team Associated, which is made by Lucas. This is what I use on the front and rear, and I'm going to do that on this Kyosho buggy since I've got it torn down. And this is very hard to find. If you want the part number, there it is. TLR 5288. Very, very hard to find. This is a 100 125,000. Okay, 125 is what I run in my center, and I think I'm going to just change this instead of putting 100 in it again. And you guys are probably thinking like, dang, Muggy, this thing just ripped, frickin' hooked up like a tow truck, ripped wheelies, hauled the mail, okay, like crazy. Why would you want to put thicker? Well, it's just another thing too. It won't stay thick forever. After time running it, you're obviously, you know, that's basic physics. The diff fluid will thin. So it just means less time that you have to change it. Okay, now I've probably ran at least 2 gallons through this. I would check every gallon. Okay, some people will open it up and look at it. I've done that before, and then if it's cool, but when I open it up and I see that it's black like that, oh hell yeah. Because sometimes, you know, maybe only you ran it maybe a gallon maybe, and you might open it up and it might still be clean. This is obviously like it's time, definitely time to change it. That shit's just black. Okay, so I'm going to throw in the Losi 125 in the middle. And another quick tip. Best way to get 100 or 125 thick shit like this out, and I learned this tip a while back from Ryan Letts. What he does, and I don't use too thin of oil, but I'll use like maybe 90 if you have it, or 100, preferably. But either way, take shock oil, okay, after you get as much as you can out, take shock oil, put it in here, and continue to kind of spin it around and work it, empty it out, fill it up. You have to do it a couple times, and what that does, it just makes it so much easier. Like I said, I learned this from Ryan Letts years ago. Okay, he actually has a video on it. You can look it up. Ryan Letts Diffs. I think it was when he was with, I don't know if he was with Techno. I think he was with Durango at the time. I can't remember. But anyway, so that's what he recommends. It just makes it so much easier because this shit is hard to get out, man. And what this did, putting shock oil, silicone oil in there, it just works. After you get most of it out, it just works it all through everything, and it just basically thins it out, to where it's very easy to clean out, and then you can fill it up. Highly recommend filling the diffs up and letting them set overnight, or as long as till. What I do is I'll let it set. You, especially with 100, 125K, it takes about 24 hours for it completely. Some people don't have the patience, and they'll go ahead and put it back together, and then you got all these little bubbles, or little tiny bubbles. I don't want nothing, not even one microscopic bubble. I want to be able to see throughout the whole differential inside of there, because that's how clear it is. No bubbles at all. Okay, not even, like I said, micro bubbles. And I'm talking like tiny, tiny, tiny. You guys know what I'm talking about if you've ever done this. Check your seal also, because sometimes those need to be replaced. This is also a good time to redo your bearings, because you're able to pull them off on most. And I believe this is a stock 48. I think they make a light spur. I might look into that. Nothing wrong with that one. Long as when you go check it, that the what I look for is the teeth wearing. Once the teeth start getting that, losing that edge and start getting flat on the top, that's when it's time to. Or when they get that little burring on the sides really bad, it's time to change. I would. So anyway, little tips and stuff on how I do my diffs. Now, more importantly, like I said, this video is to help newbies and people that have been around a while. I got this information from the legend. He directed me to this, and if you guys need this, it's a whole book. Not a book, but anyway, I want to read to you, and this is what it tells you, what the difference between lighter fluid, diff fluid, and thicker diff fluid throughout all your diffs. Now let's start with the front, okay? Thinner front differential fluid will increase off steering and decrease on steering, on power steering. Now you guys know what that means, right? So if you go thinner diff on your thinner front diff fluid, and this is, like I said, this applies for racing and bashing, okay? Either or, okay? Obviously, we're not too concerned about how it steers when you're bashing, but if you're racing, you are. So, again, thinner front differential fluid will increase off power steering. So, when you're not steering, which means off power, it'll increase, okay, and decrease on power steering, okay. If the front diff fluid is too light, okay, it can make the vehicle twitchy and difficult to drive. So again, if you're running thinner fluid in the front, you're going to have increased off power steering and decrease on power steering. And if it's really light, depending on how light you go, the vehicle will be twitchy and difficult to drive. Now, on the flip side of that, thicker front differential fluid will have smoother off power steering and increase on power steering. If the front diff is too thick, it can make the rear of the vehicle loose on throttle. So if you notice when you see guys bashing, when we're bashing, because, you know, obviously we're running 50 to 60, depending, I run 60 now, I used to run 50 when I first started, you know, the standard, 100 in the middle, bashing, what we all learned from various people, including Mr. Za, 100 in the middle, 50 on the front, 50 on the rear. But over time, using that with modified engines, and as I got badder-asser engines, okay, that wasn't even working. I was still spinning tires, and it didn't matter where I ran it. Concrete, grass, dirt, doesn't matter. It's spinning the tires, okay? So I obviously opted to go thicker. So, again, when you use thicker front diff fluid, you'll have smoother off power steering and increase on power steering, okay? But if the front is thick, okay, it can make the rear of the vehicle loose on throttle. So if you're coming out of a corner and you're racing and you got too thick of oil in the front, your ass end's going to be all over the place, okay? So again, now if you guys, after I go over this, if you guys need any, like I've got a whole, this thing is pretty badass. I'll show it to you. This is from Mugen, okay? This is something that Adam, this whole, it's like a whole pamphlet that I got, that Adam Drake pretty much, you know, did with Mugen. I'm not sure if Mayfield had anything to do with it, but anyway, so for the center diff now, thinner diff fluid in the center differential will increase on power traction, okay? So that means that if you're running diff, center diff, like if your center diff is fluid is thin, you'll increase on power traction, but you'll decrease acceleration and increase off power steering, okay? Again, thinner differential fluid in the center diff will increase on power traction but decrease acceleration and increase off power steering. Okay. Now, thicker center diff oil or fluid will have more acceleration, more on power steering, and smoother off power steering. So us bashers that are running 100, 125 like I'm gonna put in the Kyosho, by thickening it, I'll have more acceleration, more on power steering, and smoother off power steering. Okay, so we want, as bashers, and I'm speaking for bashers, I can't speak for racers. I know racers, they want it smooth, trackable, manageable, power, period. Okay, when you're racing. That shit goes out the window when you're bashing. We want uncontrollable, just ballistic. We don't care if the ass end is all over the place. We want all of our power, okay, to the ground. We don't want smoothness anywhere. We want brute power, okay? So that's why we run thick-ass diff fluid, okay? Because we'll have more acceleration, more on power steering, and smoother off power steering, okay? So racing, obviously, that's to a certain extent no bueno, okay? Now, the rear. So thinner diff fluid in the rear will have more rotation in the middle of the turn and will make the rear end looser on throttle. Okay? Again, thinner differential fluid in the rear will have more rotation in the middle of the turn and will make the rear end loose on throttle. Okay? So, thicker rear diff fluid will increase off-power steering slightly. Has smoother steering in the middle of the turn and more rear traction on the throttle. So you can imagine you're running, 50 to 60 or whatever in the rear, you're getting a lot more rear traction on throttle. Okay? And you're getting smoother steering in the middle of the turn. Okay? Again, bashers aren't really concerned. Me personally, and I've told this to tons of guys, I don't like it just being, that's why I don't like running, engines like these in a buggy. It's fun for shits and giggles. Yeah, it's pretty crazy, but they don't handle very well. They definitely steer like, it's hard to they're just everywhere. Now, like I said, it's fun to a certain extent, but it's, I don't like it that much because I'd rather have something nasty like this or something nasty like this, in a buggy to where it handles great. You can rip it on a straight line. Like, you've seen me ripping this thing, and I can pretty much hold a straight line. Even on that piece of concrete, man, if I was running a .28, even stock, or a .32, it's not going to run straight like that. Not that fast. But because these .21s are modded, and they're not like, they are drag mods, but they're not, totally off the charts. I don't know. This one is pretty crazy. I swear, man. I can't emphasize it enough. If you guys have $170 or $200 laying around, because you can find them for $200, get one of these R5R Reds. Send it, preferably, if you want it like this one, send it to Lance. Tell him to go bananas on it, and you will have a bad-ass engine. I can even race this thing. It is fully economical, and again, let me finish this because I want to, before I end this video, I want to help one of my nitro brothers out. So thicker rear diff fluid will increase off power steering. Off power steering has smoother steering in the middle of the turn and more rear traction on the throttle. Okay, so this thing is pretty cool. If you guys want to know how to get this, hit me up. I'll send you the link for it. You can print it out on your computer like I did. This is put together by Adam Drake, and it's got everything. We'll cover some other stuff. I'll pick something out. I think it has clutch stuff on here. So this is everything from your vehicle, from top to bottom, to how to set up. Yes, most of it's geared towards racing, but a lot of this stuff applies to both. You just have to differentiate the two. I always tell people that. A lot of things that these guys that race, especially like Adam and Ryan Lutz and and Ron Falk, David Falk, and all these guys that do videos, you got these things that they talk about. Yes, it's mostly for racing, but there's a lot of things, as long as you learn how to differentiate, you can apply it to bashing. Like what I just read you and shared with you guys. Yes, Adam designed that for racing, but all you got to do is do basic math. It doesn't take a rocket scientist, and you can figure out what all that means in terms to set up your vehicle for whatever you want to do it with. I'm very confident that anybody can go over that diff guide that I just read to you and set up your vehicle to either race or bash, however you want to run it. Speed runs, whatever. You know, a lot of stuff in racing and bashing is universal. But yes, a lot of it isn't, too, at the same time. Okay? And I'm sure most of you guys have been around long enough to know that. If you guys are new to this, if you're new or looking to get into nitro, it's not as complicated. You know, and this video isn't to... It's just to kind of give, you know, a little meat and potato for everybody. Whether you're new, whether you're, you know, intermediate, or whether, you know, you've been doing it for a while. Okay? I've been doing nitro on video on YouTube since 2013, 14, whatever. You know, and I've been doing nitro a few years before that. So I've been in nitro, not on YouTube, but in a hole, on and off YouTube, in nitro, 8-scale nitro, okay, for, you know, a while. So, long enough. Okay, am I at the best of anything? Or no, I never claim to be the best at anything. But I tell you what, I can say with confidence, and I challenge anybody, find me a video where somebody has, I don't care if it's stock, modded, whatever, any .21 on a truggy or a buggy, legitimate pulling wheelies and hitting high notes like these two frickin' badass engines have. And there's more to come. You know, I'm really curious to see out of the couple other engines that I'm getting modded, .21s, that they're going to match this. Right now, this one's king of my .21s. This one's number 2. And I'd say my Virtus is like 3rd. I don't know, the Virtus and this one are pretty close. The Virtus is a little bit more top end, but a little bit less bottom end. This is definitely more bottom end. Obviously because it's a 5-port, and the Virtus that I have modded is a 7-port. I also have a 9-port Virtus too, that's stock. I might send that one and get it modded. See what's the difference between a 9-port Virtus modified and a 7-port. But anyway, that's all I wanted to share with you guys. Oh, where's that piece of paper that I had? I wrote down something for one of my nitro brothers because he wanted to know, because people always ask me, are these engines economical? Because if you can go to a track and race it, a lot of people are like, well, I can't, I got to at least have 9 or 10 minutes. Listen, I wrote it down here. Go on the video that I just ran this Reds from 2020, 20 minutes, 20 seconds, okay, to 30:35 is when I ran out of fuel. Bone dry. So I topped it off at 20:20, ran out at 30:35. And that's, if you look at that video, that's full tilt. I mean, ripping some high notes, high-speed passes, pulling wheelies, cranking on it, everything, okay? From 2020 on that video to 30:35, it might differ a few seconds. So you do the math. That's clearly, that's 10 minutes, obviously. Okay? And that's how I was running it. So I told one of my brothers, and this is for him, one of my nitro bros, okay? He wanted to know, can I get 10 minutes before I have to refuel, before pit stops? Yeah, you can. Okay? This Reds will run about 20 to 25 minutes. Okay, minimum on a full tank. And that's going balls to the walls. If you were to race it, even on a long track, I guarantee you would probably get, you know, at least minimum, and it all depends on your gearing and other things too. It's not, you know, there's a lot of things that go into that. At least 20 minutes. Okay? So, you tell me. Again, there it is. 2020 on that on the video where I just ran this thing to 30, 35 is when I ran out. Topped it off, and it ran out 10 minutes later. But look at how I was running it. So and I talked to Lance, and he is one of the few, if not the only guy that I know that from what I understand of talking to others, that can modify engines is .21s. As far as these things, forget it. Stock or modded, they're just freaking nitroholics, man. They just like to be fed. They're just pigs, okay? It doesn't matter, okay? But all the .21s that I have, including the P5 and the Virtus and, you know, all the other ones that I have that he modded, very economical. You know, just cruising this thing and not really getting on it, I can get almost 40 minutes on a full tank with this engine. That's pretty economical. Okay, so anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this very rare occasion. I don't do a lot of wrenchings, you know. Was out at the fams for the holidays, and you know, figured I'd do a little wrench video. So shout out to those that are doing the work. Yeah, and again, let me emphasize again, why would you spend, I don't care if it's $200 or $300, especially $500 or $600, why spend all that money on an engine and never go past half throttle? It doesn't make any sense to me. It makes about as much sense as a screen door on a submarine. Why in the hell would you spend $400, $500, $600 on an engine? You know, yes, the quality, yes, this, yeah, but aren't you curious to see what the thing does wide open? I don't know. If you're a racer, probably not. I don't know why. And I had one of my subscribers. He told me, I guess people just don't get it. People just don't get it. I swear, man, this is the biggest no-brainer. You could spend $300 in this engine, and at worst case scenario, you got a badass engine. Maybe you can't race it or whatever. Who cares? But when you try a modified engine, okay, you will not be sorry. You won't regret it. That's for damn sure. I guess, like I told him, some people like Toyota Camrys, which are fine. Some people even like to drive a Lexus. Even better. But until you drive a Ferrari F1 or a Lambo or a Bugatti, you just don't know what you're missing. Okay? Highly recommend modified engines. Highly recommend RCR, RC Renew. Man, stock engines are cool. You know, they're okay, and if that's all you can race, then that's fine. You know, I have not all modded engines. People seem to forget that. All my engines, and I've probably got over almost 30 engines now, you know, I've ran them all stock and modded. Broken them in, ran them stock, ran them modded afterwards. I know the difference, and there's a big difference. Okay? And I'll leave you with this. Okay? If you think that 15 to 23% increase, which in engine terms means, if you think, and this is coming from Lance, that a 3,000 to 4,000 RPM increase on a nitro engine isn't worth $100, you're smoking some really bad stuff. You know, and you know, to each his own. Modified isn't for everybody. There's a lot of other things that go into running a modified engine, and we'll go over that later down the line, because people think they can just get a modded engine and just throw it in an RTR, or not even prep your vehicle and just get a race kit, build it, you know, out of the box and just throw a modded engine in there. It doesn't work like that. There's a lot that goes into running these things. You can't just put it in anything and run it, okay, if you want to do it right. But anyway, that's all I got. There's another 40 minutes of, you know, my yapping, a little bit of wrenching, and you know, if one person learns something, if I can help out or teach one person, that's all that matters to me. I could care less about anything else. So, alright people, again, happy holidays. Hope everybody stays, you know, safe. Avoid the holiday crowds and rushes, and we will see you on the next video. We'll be running These two monsters right here. Okay, TNS 28.8 Rex Legend modified versus RCR modded LRP32 Spec 4. Battle of the Beasts. Alright people, one more look at that sexy ass engine. Guaranteed you won't be sorry. Peace. Muggy's out.